The Labor Department released its inflation report this morning. Economists say prices for Americans jumped nearly 8% in February compared to just a year ago. One of the major factors is the price of crude oil, which is driving the price of gas even higher. Our 9 News financial expert Bruce Allen with Bruce G. Allen Investments is joining us to talk about it. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Corey.
So the inflation rate came out this morning at 8%. That is quite a rise. And one of the prices that's rising is the price of gasoline, which I'm sure is no surprise to any drivers out there who have to fill up their car lately. Talk about what's causing the price of gasoline to rise so much.
Yeah, gasoline accounted for 1/3 of the increase in the inflation rate this last month. And one of the reasons that gasoline is rising is that the price of crude oil has been rising dramatically, Corey, because of the sanctions and also because of the supply disruptions due to the war. The price of oil has risen from $75 to over $110. And let me make it perfectly clear, I think that the sanctions have been enormously effective. But the issue is, how do we, as United States citizens and also as a world, offset the exports that Russia is bringing to other parts of the world? And that's roughly 4 million barrels a day. So the key question is, how does the oil market internationally offset that reduction in supply? And if we can figure out how to tackle that one, we can get the gas prices back down.
Right. Well, we're going to circle back to that, but I was going to ask you, has the Russian invasion of Ukraine been the cause of this increase, or is that still to come?
The cause of the increase is partly in this data, and it's also going to be partly in the March data. So we'll see that over the next couple of months.
All right. So do you think there's anything that can be done to help increase the amount of production to alleviate these higher prices at the pump?
Yeah, let me put this in context. Prior to the COVID pandemic, the United States was producing 13.1 million barrels of oil a day. That was the amount of oil that we were producing in February of 2020. Currently, we're producing 11.6 million barrels. So the key number, Corey, is that 4 million barrels that Russia's exporting. If we can increase our production by 1.5 million barrels back to where we were before COVID, right, that's going to tackle a piece of that. The other big swing producers are obviously at OPEC, and it's estimated that OPEC nations could increase production by 2 million barrels. So there's 3.5 million barrels right there. And if we can do that as a combined effort and internationally, we're going to see the price of gasoline come back down here in the United States. Yesterday, we saw the United Arab Emirates make some first innovations about talking about perhaps raising their production as well. So this may already be starting to happen.
Okay. Well, last question for you real quick. My husband's also in the finance industry. And are you getting a lot of people calling you, clients calling you, kind of freaking out about the markets, the instability, the rise in inflation, rise in everything these days? And if so, what are you telling them?
I think there's a couple things. One is any high quality advisor, and I'm sure your husband's one of these as well, Jorge, will take a look at how do we protect clients in very substantial crises, and putting investments in place like having hedges that protect clients from this kind of inflation and also protect their balances when markets decline is a critical piece of any sophisticated financial plan. So we've talked to our clients some. We don't have anybody freaking out, although if the markets could decline dramatically, I'm sure we'll have our share of that, Corey. But having said that, putting these things in place before these events happen is the critical piece. And that's why we've been able to manage through this. And I'm sure your husband's in the same kind of position.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You'll look at it, oh my gosh, it's down 800 and then it finishes at 600 up or whatever. And so it's just so back and forth. And at first you're like kind of nervous and then it's fine. But, I think we have yet to see really how high some of these prices can go.
I think you're probably right, and that's why I'm hopeful that we as a country can supplant some of the Russian demand that Western Europe has. And I think we have enormous capabilities as the largest oil producer in the world to do that. So we have the ability to make a substantial impact. It's a once in 100-year opportunity for us to replace Russian demand for energy by replacing that with U.S. demand. It's a tremendous opportunity as a country to be able to do this.
Absolutely. All right, Bruce Allen, thank you as always. Really appreciate it.
Good to talk.